2023 afternoon session of the Portland City Council. Good afternoon, Keelan. Please call the roll.
Good afternoon, Ryan. Gonzalez. Oh, yep. Maps.
Here.
Rubio.
Here.
Wheeler.
Here. Now we'll hear from legal counsel on the rules of order and decorum.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Portland City Council. To testify before council in person or virtually, you must sign up in advance on the council agenda at www.portland.gov/council/agenda. Information on engaging with the City Council can be found on the Council Clerk's webpage. Presiding officer preserves order and decorum during City Council meetings. The presiding officer determines the length of testimony. Individuals generally have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. A timer will indicate when your time is done. Disruptive conduct, such as shouting, refusing to conclude your testimony when your time is up, or interrupting others' testimony or council deliberations will not be allowed. If you cause a disruption, a warning will be given. Further disruption will result in an ejection from the meeting. Anyone who fails to leave once ejected is subject to arrest for trespass. Additionally, council may take a short recess and reconvene virtually. Your testimony today should address the matter being considered. When testifying, 1, state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. 2, disclose if you're a lobbyist. If you're representing an organization, please identify it. And 3, testifiers joining virtually, please unmute yourself once the council clerk calls your name. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 311, please.
Vacate a portion of Northeast Everett Street west of Northeast 2nd Avenue, subject to certain conditions and reservations.
Commissioner Mapp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, this item comes to us from PBOT. This ordinance authorizes the city to turn over a portion of the right-of-way near Northeast Everett and 2nd to the Union Pacific Railroad. Here is some background on this ordinance. On April 10th, 2019, Union Pacific Railroad petitioned the city of Portland to vacate this portion of Northeast Everett Street. This is a formal process defined in law. There is a formal process defined in law for street vacations. This proposal went through that process. Among other things, comments on this proposal were solicited from city bureaus, government agencies, public utilities, affected neighborhoods, and business associations. The Planning and Sustainability Commission has reviewed this proposal and recommended the City Council approve this vacation, and PBOT has determined that the area proposed for vacation is no longer needed as the public right-of-way. This area is currently public right-of-way, but is not part of our local street network. Vacating the street will restore parking in the area, reduce the city's liabilities and property management reduce the city's liabilities and property management responsibilities, and return the area to the property tax rolls. Here to tell us more about this ordinance, we have Lance Lindahl, Right-of-Way Agent 3 with PBOT. Hi, Lance.
Hello. Thank you, Commissioner. Boy, that was an excellent setup. I appreciate that. You make it very easy for me here today. Again, my name is Lance Lindahl, PBOT Right-of-Way Acquisition. I have some slides that will be shown, kind of provide some visual images of the area. And I usually like to keep these presentations really brief. I know time's limited today, but I'm available for questions too as we go through, because it's been about a year since we've seen a street vacation make it to council. And we have 5 or 6 more that are going to be here in the next couple months. So you'll be getting a lot of experience with it. We can go ahead and go to slide number 2. All right, so this is an area that was dedicated to the city by subdivision plat back in the 1800s. At that time, it made perfect sense to have a connected street grid in this area with the traditional square Portland blocks. However, lots changed in that time. First up was Northeast First Avenue was turned over to the railroad for use as the mainline railroad right-of-way between Union Station and on its way down south to California. That was originally the Southern Pacific Line. It's now operated and owned by the Union Pacific Railroad. Also, the Interstate 5 freeway was placed immediate to the west of this site and west of the First Avenue right-of-way. So river connections, access west of here have been cut off for many, many years. And it would be cost prohibitive to have any kind of connection built in this location in the future. Next slide, please. Here's an aerial image. Of course, we're in the Central East Side Industrial District. We're right underneath of the I-5, I-84 interchange ramps. And Union Pacific Railroad is the property owner of the property to the north. And Portland-based Pacific Coast Fruit Company owns the property to the south. Next slide, please. Here's a quick image that I took out there recently. As you can see, the site does not look like much of a street right now. It's actually being leased through our right-of-way leasing program to Pacific Coast Fruit to provide needed parking for their employees. And we get kind of a double benefit there. It generates a little bit of revenue for us, and also they've taken over management and maintenance of that property. So a lot of the nuisance issues we had there in the past with illegal dumping and other activities has been abated. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of conditions of approval on this vacation case. I'll touch upon the main ones here briefly. So we had some concerns at PBOT about the size of the vacation area. So we went through this mutual process to kind of right size it. We wanted to make sure that the existing cul-de-sac to the east was preserved for emergency vehicle access per feedback from Portland Fire and Rescue, and that has happened. And also we wanted to, we actually encouraged the applicant to vacate all the way up to the First Avenue right-of-way so that there's no landlocked parcels left in there that would be hard for us to access and manage in the future. I think we can go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, so the city is getting a number of things in return on this one from Union Pacific Railroad. There's this, it's been on our list of cleanup projects in right-of-way acquisition for a number of years now. There's this parcel of property on North Greeley Avenue near the North Going interchange. And for whatever reason, when improvements were constructed there 60 years ago, there was a little piece of property that was never acquired by the city. And so in exchange for vacating this portion of Everett Street, we're going to actually have the railroad, and they've agreed to do this, to donate that property to the city so we can continue to use it as public right-of-way. Also, we have some other lease agreements with Union Pacific. One's for a beautification area at the east end of the east end of the Steel Bridge, and we've renegotiated the terms of the lease, and the rent amount that the city has to pay for that have been reduced. And also there was some discussion about parking in the area, and in exchange for vacating this area for parking, Union Pacific has stopped using a portion of this Northeast 2nd Avenue right-of-way that was causing some access concerns for the nearby BES pump station. We can go and go to the next slide. And as you probably noticed in the image, there's aerial ramps here that are owned and operated by ODOT, and the ordinance that's before you today will actually reserve easements so that those can remain in their existing configuration. Next slide. Other conditions of approval, these two are pretty routine. The first one is the property owners are going through a replat process through the Bureau of Development Services. That's just to make sure that all of the existing parcels as well as the historic lot lines are reconciled so that they all have legal street frontage on the remaining right-of-way. And then the second one listed here is Bureau of Environmental Services. They do have existing facilities out here, including the East Side Big Pipe project is located underground here. So Union Pacific will be granting easements so that all those facilities can remain as they are today. Next slide. Development plans, with some of the vacations you're going to be seeing in the next few weeks, they're tied to specific redevelopment projects. I just want to point out this one is not. What you see out there today is pretty much how the area is going to continue to function in the future. And there's a little side note here too. So as with most street vacations, it actually splits down the center line of the street and the abutting property owners get the side closest to them. On this one though, Union Pacific has agreed to give their reversionary rights to Pacific Coast Fruit, so they will have the whole area to use for their operations there. Next slide. And, all right, well, that wraps up my presentation. If there's any questions, please let me know. I know time's kind of short today too, so always feel free to contact me by phone or email if concerns come up later.
Thank you for the presentation. Colleagues, any questions? Do we have public testimony on this item?
We have 2 people signed up.
Very good.
First up is Kimberly Davis. I believe they were going to join us online. Is Kimberly here? No. Okay, next we have Ryan Simpson.
Welcome, Ryan. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. So my name's Ryan Simpson. I'm a contractor for Union Pacific Railroad. Just wanted to run through kind of a general overview of why we're doing this. And also wanted to thank city staff because, as you heard, we've been doing this since 2019. A lot of work's gone into it. Appreciate everything that they've done for us and working with us on it. We originally built this project in about 2014. We built a connection track connecting our north-south main line, the Brooklyn sub, to our east-west main line, the Portland sub. And when we did that, we took up a little bit of Pacific Coast Fruit's parking lot, and so we're vacating the street to give it back to them, essentially. We're agreeable to all the conditions, and as you heard, many of them have already been complied with. So I was here to answer any questions too, but those are kind of the general overview that I had.
Perfect.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your work on this. And was
And
there,
that completes testimony.
that was it? Okay. Any further conversation or discussion? Commissioner Mapps?
I just want to thank staff and Union Pacific Railroad for their work on this. This is a humble project, but it wasn't easy to get done. And there are many benefits to the city of Portland and the people of Portland which are embedded in this. So I'm excited for the second reading next week.
Thank you, Commissioner Mapps. This is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. We'll go to the second reading, item 312, please.
Create a local improvement district to construct street improvements west of Northwest 83rd Place in the Northwest Reed Drive Local Improvement District.
This is the second reading. We've already heard a presentation and had opportunity for public testimony. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ryan?
Aye.
Maps?
I want to thank Andrew for his work on this. I think I see Andrew tuning in from his car. I know we have kept you on hold for 3/4 of a day, but this is great work. Glad to see it move forward. I vote aye.
Rubio?
Aye.
Wheeler?
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Item 310. This is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance.
Authorize intergovernmental agreement for the Regional Mobility Pricing Program between State of Oregon Department of Transportation and the city for planning and preliminary design services.
Commissioner Mapps.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, this item comes to us from PBOT. This ordinance authorizes the city to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with ODOT. This IGA allows ODOT to reimburse the city of Portland for the time city staff spend consulting on the state of Oregon's Regional Mobility Pricing Project. The Regional Mobility Pricing Project is ODOT's initiative to introduce tolling on I-5 and I-205. Now, Let me speak directly and plainly to Portlanders who oppose tolling and wonder why the city of Portland would sit at a table with ODOT to discuss bringing tolling to Portland. Here's why it's important for Portland to enter into this IGA. As the state of Oregon contemplates adding tolling to the highways that run through Portland, the city has two choices. We can either be at the table where we can advocate for Portland's interest, or we can be on the plate as ODOT decides what's best for Portlanders. Colleagues, when it comes to tolling, I recommend that this council choose the path that allows Portland to shape its own future. This IGA before us today does that. This IGA not only gets Portland a seat at the table where tolling will be discussed, this IGA also reimburses the city for our time at this table. Now, here today to tell us more about this IGA, we have Caitlin Reff, Major Projects and Partnerships Manager with PBOT, Art Pierce, Director of Planning Policy and Projects with PBOT, and Mandy Putney, Director of Strategic Initiatives and Urban Mobility Office with the Oregon Department of Transportation. Welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Great, thank you, Mayor and Commissioner. Again, Art Pierce. Quickly walk you through the show today. As Commissioner Mapps just laid out, there is a discussion underway at the state level and at the regional level where ODOT is looking at planning a tolling program for I-5 and 205. And the project has the potential to have a huge positive or negative impact to the Portland region. ODOT's at a significant stage right now of going through the NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act stage for the project. And the city needs to be directly engaged in the significant technical work and policy work to make sure that the city's interests are being best met in the process. And so this specific ordinance is exactly that. It directs us to be part of an IGA, to have staffing, funding supported for the project. Just a little bit of quick context. As ODOT has stated, the Regional Mobility Pricing Program, or RMPP for short, the purpose of that program is to use congestion pricing on Interstate 5 and Interstate 205 to manage traffic congestion on these facilities in the Portland metro area in a manner that generates revenue for the transportation system improvements. I think it's also to understand that congestion pricing as a specific tool tries to charge additional fee when there's the most demand on the transportation system. And if it's paired with multimodal investments, it gives the opportunity for people to change the time of day, the means of travel, or the routing of travel to better balance out the demand on the system. I think very important to acknowledge that currently Portland is not on track to meet most of our safety, mobility, equity, and climate goals. Our current transportation system is inequitable and contributes to climate crisis, exacerbates poor health, and currently presents safety risks for users in traffic crashes. To better meet our transportation system goals, we need to do things differently, and congestion pricing is a new tool that might be able to further these various agendas. Congestion pricing, if designed currently, is a tool that has been proven and effective in helping to create a more sustainable and safe and equitable transportation system. It has the potential to improve mobility on highways and also support multimodal options for shorter local trips that don't need to use the highways. It can be structured in a way to not burden people experiencing low incomes. However, if this project is not designed well, it could simply lead to more traffic, congestion, and safety problems on our local streets as people choose not to take the more expensive highways. That do-nothing option is not acceptable to meeting our city goals. All of this is why Portland has been actively engaged in this process at this point now for over 5 years. In 2017, ODOT convened a value pricing advisory committee, and Commissioner Saltzman assigned a staff person to participate in that process. The result of that work, the City of Portland sent a letter to the Oregon Transportation Commission in 2018, laying out our values around congestion pricing. And in 2020-2021, the City Council directed us to lead a task force together with BPS called Pricing Options for Equitable Mobility, which helped us to look at ways that congestion pricing and other forms of pricing might be able to advance mobility, climate, and equity goals. And so at this point now, we are an active participant in that process. City leadership has been ongoing. Commissioner Mapps has been a representative on a group called the RTAC, the Regional Toll Advisory Committee. And so we continue to be actively participating and really hope that this council action will help us further lean into that. And of course, there are sort of key implications with both the I-5 Rose Quarter project as well as the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program, both of which contemplate some level of tolling or congestion pricing in that program. I think I'll now pass it over to Caitlin to take it from here.
Yep. Thank you, Art. Again, I'm Caitlin Reff with PBOT. So yeah, as Art was mentioning, all of the work over the past 5+ years has helped set the stage for where we are now and conceptualize the project, the Regional Mobility Pricing Project, and also kind of the moment that we are at today. ODOT is advancing the project from more of that policy conversation into technical evaluation and implementation, and so this agreement facilitates that staff-level participation. As staff engage, we're going to continue to advocate for city priorities that reflect adopted policy and as have been established to date. As we learn more through the analysis and modeling that's advanced by the ODOT team, our team will continue to learn more how these priorities can or will be met, or what needs more work to be fully addressed. This slide provides a summary of our priorities. Just kind of quickly, reducing and not shifting vehicle miles driven is really essential to achieve the environmental benefits, including greenhouse gas and particulate emission reduction. How toll revenue is allocated and invested is going to have a huge impact on the project's ability to meet its stated goals. Improved transit must be matched with pricing to most effectively manage demand and provide affordable options for users. To be able to maintain or improve safety on the surrounding local network, we need to have a much greater understanding of potential diversion and how revenue will be dedicated to address it. We have also heard as longstanding priorities voiced by city leaders that given the level of potential effect, local and regional stakeholders should have a direct role in toll revenue decisions. Creating a more equitable system needs to drive toll structure development. Ensuring that the project include discounts or exemptions for people experiencing low income is essential. So these priorities are really important. We're going to continue to return to them sort of as our North Star and work as we work to ensure that the interests of the city are represented. In terms of scope and schedule, the IGA, as Commissioner Mapps mentioned, will reimburse city staff for services. These services include technical review, input, and participation in environmental planning and engineering for the NEPA and preliminary engineering phase. This work will seek to better understand the methodologies and project approach, project impact, provide input to ODOT, to influence project direction and design, and partner with ODOT on developing better solutions. We know we'll need to be flexible and bring in expertise as needed. This will be coordinated through PBOT as the lead city bureau, but we have accounted for staff engagement allowances through BPS, BES, Parks, BDS, Water, and Portland Fire and Rescue. Also, as typical with major regional projects spanning multiple years, we'll need to return to City Council for IGA amendments or to authorize engagement on subsequent phases of work and provide project updates. We also wanted to share the project governance or decision-making structure and ODOT's approach for stakeholder engagement and input. So in addition to the regional tables, where the policy level conversation continues through this IGA, city staff will be fully engaged in the technical work groups as a participating agency and supporting Commissioner Mapps on the Regional Toll Advisory Committee. We'll also continue to participate in the Equity and Mobility Advisory Committee. So now I'm going to hand it over to Mandy.
Thanks, Caitlin. And for the record, I'm Mandy Putney with ODOT's Urban Mobility Office. I serve as the Director of Strategic Initiatives and as the Project Director for the Regional Mobility Pricing Project as it goes through the National Environmental Policy Act process. It's been a pleasure to work with PBOT staff. I've been involved in the these conversations for the past 5 years in one capacity or another, and I think our partnership continues to grow and evolve. And we really can't do it alone. So having this partnership is really essential as we move forward. I want to just highlight on this slide a couple of the boxes that Caitlin didn't mention. One is that the Oregon Transportation Commission is the tolling authority for the state of Oregon, and in that capacity will be responsible for the final review and establishment of the rules associated with the toll program, as well as the rates that are ultimately set for the Regional Mobility Pricing Project, and that will happen about 6 months before tolling is implemented. And then I also will note the Federal Highway Administration is our lead federal partner. We do need Federal Highway Administration to make a decision on the environmental process and environmental analysis before moving forward with implementation. And for this project that we're proposing on I-5 and I-205, there'll be a second step of coordination with the US DOT and Federal Highway Administration to do a cooperative agreement with ODOT and the federal government so that we can participate in one of their pilot programs, the value pricing pilot program, and that's how we will move forward with pricing on I-5 and I-205. And then I'll note that we're engaged with government-to-government consultation, working with FHWA and engaging tribal governments as we move forward. This map here shows ODOT's urban mobility strategy, and as you see, the dark navy here is kind of the backbone of that strategy, the Regional Mobility Pricing Project. The urban mobility strategy was developed to address the needs that were outlined in House Bill 2017, which passed during the 2017 legislative session, and also to support the equity, climate change, congestion relief, and safety goals in ODOT's strategic action plan. And going along with this strategy, the Office of Urban Mobility was formed in 2019. This new office for ODOT leads the urban mobility strategy to resolve congestion with tolling and allow us to modernize our aging infrastructure and transportation system. The Regional Mobility Pricing Project is a key part of this strategy as a cohesive approach to reduce congestion, improve mobility, and provide a sustainable revenue source that will allow us to update roads and bridges and invest in multimodal options. Our other core projects are also identified here, and we also have identified regionally significant partner efforts that are currently underway. We like to include this slide, knowing that there are many in this region that aren't that familiar with tolling. We will move forward taking full advantage of modern technology and have a fully electronic system so that drivers will not have to stop at a toll booth or to put money in a bucket. We will have overhead structures called gantries that you see here in this picture in blue, and they will be able to read a tolling sticker or a tag on your windshield or car so that you're able to move forward with an electronic system for toll collection and invoicing. We are looking at pricing all lanes of I-5 and I-205, and this system would allow us to do that. The backup approach would be a vehicle video system so that we'd be able to capture license plates and do billing that way. And our statewide, we have a statewide toll rulemaking advisory committee that has been established and is currently meeting, and part of their discussion is all these rules related to enforcement and program setup. Both Caitlin and Art mentioned some of the aspects of the process that we have done and are moving forward. ODOT formally launched the National Environmental Policy Act process after about a 2-year extended planning conversation and process, and we launched NEPA at the end of last year by asking people, the public and our partner agencies, to comment on the range or scope of community and environmental issues that we would study in our environmental analysis as we move forward. We received around 4,500 comments and have just published a report to share kind of the common themes heard during that comment period. And those comments will help us determine our analysis and focus areas for the environmental assessment that will be produced. And this is the process that will seek engagement from city staff as we're developing the methods for the different resource areas, including transportation. And then once we do that, we will move forward with the environmental analysis, the traffic analysis, and understanding of benefits and impacts. And when we do identify impacts, we're required to think about solutions for those impacts. It's called mitigation as we're going through this environmental process. We expect that our draft environmental assessment will be published for public review later this year. And then there'll be a formal comment period following that document. And then we'll revise it and work with the Federal Highway Administration on their decision after we have the revised and final document. The other thing I'd like to note on here is not part of the NEPA process, but is a complementary effort that's underway. ODOT has worked with partner agencies and public transportation agencies throughout the region, and those agencies are currently working to develop a public transportation strategy that will best complement regional pricing. So that work is underway, and that is one of the topics that the Regional Tolling Advisory Committee will be hearing about at their meeting next week, and ultimately all those agencies will be seeking concurrence from RTAC moving forward.
I believe that's the end of the formal presentation.
Very good. Any questions? I have a couple. So first of all, making sure, to Commissioner Mapp's, what I thought was a really good analogy, we're either at the table or with a plate on the table. I thought that was both funny and true. So it's a good intersection right there. I think it's really important that we have city staff at the table advocating for our needs at every turn on such a large project. I think that's vitally important. So I appreciated that as being pretty much the first sentences that you spoke. I do have a question about, I'm a little fuzzy on the process for determining how toll revenue will be spent. And it was my understanding, and maybe I've got this wrong, and so feel free to disavow me of my inaccurate information, but I think it's to acknowledge the reality that congestion pricing will push some amount of traffic onto city roads. Therefore, the city should have resources available to mitigate or support the infrastructure that could potentially be impacted. Is that accurate?
Should I answer?
And
Okay,
what is the
great.
process for determining, like, do we get to decide how funds are
I guess
spent, or
maybe
who
I'll
decides?
start. That is a key part of our participation to date, has been, and in fact, previous city council letter articulated the importance of that funding strategy that is not just investing in the mainline freeway, but is investing in a variety of systems, transit investments, as well as local service streets adjacent to the system. It is not resolved at this point. That is a key part of our involvement, as well as the commissioner's involvement in that conversation that ultimately rolls up to the Oregon Transportation Commission. I don't know.
Very good. And so to what degree then do we believe we will, because I believe we'll take some heat for this. So the question is, to what degree then do we control the benefits of this decision?
Yeah, I think that is, a key near-term value proposition that we need to arrive at. In fact, that public transportation work that we're doing right now, where we're looking at the potential for transit investment and other investments on and local corridors, is a key part of that moment, is being able to get to a level of a transaction that we feel like it's worth it to accept some additional cost on the freeways in order to get, one, a more operating system, a more functional system, but also gaining investment in a certain set of infrastructure that we don't currently have a funding stream to cover.
Okay, very good. And how will rates be calculated? Has that been determined yet?
No, I'll pass that one to you.
And is there a maximum amount someone would need to pay?
What we know at this point is that we are looking at congestion pricing where there'd be a set variable rate schedule. So we'd be looking at a schedule that drivers would know what they were going to pay when they left, and it would be based on time of day and location. So this would not be a dynamic system where prices could change, as you were driving. We don't yet know the rates, so our analysis as we move forward will look at some assumptions, so we're able to do the traffic modeling. Ultimately, the commission will set the rates as they have much more detailed financial and traffic analysis available over time.
Thank you. Do we know how the low-income toll program will look like in terms of the ability to reduce or eliminate rates paid by people with lower incomes? Because I'm sure that's going to be an obvious friction point, is concerns that this could be regressive. And I know you're mindful of that and trying to work out a strategy. Has that been settled yet, or is that still under discussion?
I think it's still under discussion. I don't know if Mandy, if you, yeah.
Sure, briefly. Thank you, Mayor. It's a great question, and one that we often get. We've been working with our Equity and Mobility Advisory Committee for more than 2 years to lay the foundation to a low-income toll program. And the statewide rulemaking advisory committee will be discussing, working with EMAC this summer, options for the low-income toll program, and discounts, exemptions, and credits are all under consideration at this point. And so that we will have more information about that this year.
Okay, very good. I appreciate it. That completes my questions. I don't know if anybody else has any.
If my colleagues have no more questions, I want to say a couple of words. First, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for the questions that you posed today. I really appreciate you looking out for the interest of Portlanders. And following up on that theme, in the spirit of advocating on behalf of Portlanders in the tolling space, I'd like to pause here and introduce an amendment to this IGA that clarifies the city's position with regards to the tolling discussion with the state of Oregon. I'd like to add a directive with the following language. Quote, concurrent to city engagement on environmental planning and preliminary engineering, city bureaus shall continue to advocate for toll revenue to be allocated to support congestion and VMT reduction and provide robust, safe travel options. In the absence of revenue information, Council directs ongoing collaboration with regional partners to reach a commitment from the Oregon Transportation Commission on a toll revenue allocation formula to support local system and multimodal investments. May I get a second on that, and then I can explain what well, here, let me say what I'm trying to do here. I am
The suspense is killing me. I'll second
Yeah.
it. So-
There you go. Colleagues, I added the amendment here to underscore that a healthy and robust dialogue with the state around how, frankly, tolling revenues are spent and perhaps allocated in Portland are important. We are more than happy to partner with our friends at the state to reinvent the transportation system for the 21st century. However, it is incumbent upon the folks on this council to make sure that we look for and protect and advocate for the interests of the people of Portland. And it is our expectation, and one of the messages that we're sending with this amendment, that we expect a collaborative discussion with the state. And I'm sure we will have a collaborative discussion with the state.
Great. I'm happy to support that. So Commissioner Maps moves an amendment. I second it. Any further discussion on the amendment? We'll leave it open for public testimony.
Okay.
Do we have public testimony?
We don't have public
Call the
testimony.
roll on the amendment.
Ryan.
Aye.
Maps.
Aye.
Rubio.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. Great. This is a good presentation. This is a first reading, of course. Commissioner Ryan.
Hi. Great presentation. This will be real quick. So last Saturday, I had the pleasure of going over the Narrows Bridge, the famous Narrows Bridge, where on the way back, there was a $5.50 toll, and it was old school, so you went to a booth. And I was thinking about this because I looked at what this is coming on the agenda, and I realized ours is different. But I thought, well, at least there's accountability here. Like, I have to deal with this, and I couldn't. So I was thinking, because we have so many people that don't have, we seem to have an inordinate amount of people that don't have licenses that are current. And so is this going to be yet another thing where people will complain that those who are already paying the registration fee will be the ones that will be paying this, and then those that aren't can get by with it. I'm just asking something that I'm sure at a dinner party someone will tell me about.
Honestly, this is a new question for me. I don't know if.
It's a new
you can navigate-
question?
I think it's a good question, and
Oh.
it does, I think, emphasize the importance of us, emphasizing on our local system, the registration process, for sure, yeah. But I have not heard this question before.
I just think how we collect the money and the
Yeah.
systems that we
Oh,
put
I
in
think it's
place have to be very thoughtful.
For sure.
Because right now it's hard to trust that that would happen in a way that would please some people. Have you had a dialogue about this at
Thank
all?
you, Commissioner. I mean, these topics are on the docket for the statewide toll rulemaking advisory committee to think about enforcement and participation and administration of the system. So we don't have answers yet, but there are folks hard at work to think through all the different variations, and then also how to have a system that's as successful and as accessible as possible for people to participate in and sign up for.
And then back to the proportionality of who's using it, I think that will be quite mysterious. And so I appreciate the spirit of your amendment, because I do think that that would be another challenging formula to figure out. So I'm glad that we put that in for the spirit of that dialogue. Thank you for the
That's good.
presentation.
It's good, thank you. Any other questions? Great, there's no testimony? This is the first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading as amended. Thank you. All right, to the afternoon agenda. All right, let's make sure I got this right. First up is item 313.
Accept Portland's Housing Bond Oversight Committee 2022 Progress Report.
Commissioner Rubio.
Thank you, Mayor. So today, members of the city's Bond Oversight Committee will present the 2022 Progress Report for Portland's Housing Bond. We'll hear from some of the Portland Housing Bureau's project partners whose work exemplifies the goals and achievements of the Portland Housing Bond. And we'll also hear from a resident of a building that was funded with the bond. Before we get going, I'd like to thank the committee members for the time, effort, and expertise that they each bring to the oversight of this important work. Your report ensures the city is investing bond funds wisely and expeditiously in the way Portland voters intended. Colleagues, I want to give you a quick preview about what you'll hear today because I think it's important to hear it multiple times. And I know that the folks on the bond committee and the PHB staff aren't always ones to toot their own horns. In 2016, we asked Portland voters to invest $258 million of their property taxes into the city's first ever affordable housing bond. It was the largest general obligation bond ever passed by Portland voters. And I'm happy to report that our housing bond has been a resounding success. It has reached its goal to create new affordable homes, and in fact, it has exceeded its goals, not by 5% or even 10%. We promised voters 1,300 units of affordable housing, and we're on track to create 1,800 homes. That's over 40% more than we promised. And we did so in the midst of a pandemic and a growing housing and homelessness crisis. So not all of the buildings are open yet. There is still a lot of work to do to support our nonprofit and community partners that are building this housing as they move through the rest of the financing, permitting, and construction process. But as of this year, 6.5 years after the ballot measure was passed, all of these funds have now been allocated. And the 2022 progress report, which we'll hear about more in a moment, shows that PHB has truly underpromised and over-delivered on creating affordable housing with these public funds. So with that, I want to say thank you to each one of you for your incredible work and your leadership in this area. We owe you so much. And with that, I'll introduce the Interim Director of Portland Housing Bureau, Molly Rogers.
Thank you, Commissioner. For the record, I'm Molly Rogers, Interim Director of the Portland Housing Bureau. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm here joined by Megan Grill, who is the new bond coordinator, as well as our two co-chairs of the Bond Oversight Committee. Here with us is Alan Lazo, who is just here with us in April for Housing Month, as well as Todd Struble. I believe Todd is on virtual with us. Thank you, Todd. But before we go into the PowerPoint, I did want to take a moment to also acknowledge the mayor who helped shepherd the initial launch of the original framework and doing the community engagement work that we did that really guided all the various ways we engage with the community to make these projects delivered. And of course, Commissioner Ryan, who is our housing commissioner not that long ago, that shepherded a number of these projects to fruition. So with that, Megan?
Thank you.
I didn't do that. You did that. So thank you. The Housing Bureau did that. I was glad to be helpful.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners and Mayor Wheeler. Thank you for having us today. My name is Megan Grillo, she, her pronouns. I am the Bond Housing Program Coordinator at the Housing Bureau, and I'm joined here today by two members of our Bond Oversight Committee, Alan and Todd. And they are here to present the 2022 Progress Report. The Bond Oversight Committee is composed of up to 5 community members appointed by City Council. Our current members include our Chair, Todd Struble, our Vice Chair, Alan Lazo, and our at-large members, Susan Emmons, Annalise Kohler, and Stephen Green, with quarterly meetings facilitated by Dr. Stephen Holt. These committee members oversee implementation of Portland's housing bond. The primary areas of their oversight include ensuring adherence to the goals and priorities of the bond policy framework, creating community through public engagement, and financial accountability. And now I'm pleased to introduce our Vice Chair, Alan, to begin presenting the report.
Thank you so much, Megan. Mayor, Commissioners, good afternoon. For the record, I'm Alan Lazo. I'm the Executive Director at the Fair Housing Council of Oregon. I'm also the Vice Chair of the Portland Housing Bureau's Affordable Housing Bond Oversight Committee. The Bond Oversight Committee today is honored to bring forward to you the 2022 annual report to Council that really recognizes, as Commissioner Rubio said, the achievements of Portland's Affordable Housing Bond Measure and highlight the commitment that we've made to remaining bond funds and project openings in the next 3 years. As outlined in this report to Council, our committee reviewed progress in 3 main areas of oversight. The first was monitoring how bond activities and investments adhere to the goals of that bond policy framework that Interim Director Rogers talked about, and I do remember those meetings back at PCC and going through that framework process, so it's been quite a journey. At our quarterly meetings, we review progress being made on the projects that have been awarded bond funds and the number of units that have been completed or are in progress, and to the extent that we're on track to reach the goals of the bond. By keeping close watch over our progress, we've been able to strategize how to invest the remaining funds within the 5 to 7 year implementation timeframe that was approved by voters in the bond. The graph that you'll see here coming up, I think we can go to, outlines the progress that we've made in the bond that Commissioner Rubio highlighted. As of 2022, all Portland housing bond resources have been committed to 15 different projects, representing the production of 1,859 units, 143% of the original goal. We've also been able to provide, those 1,859 units also translate to housing nearly 3,600 of our family members, neighbors, and community members. Of those, almost 2,000 have already moved into the units that have been produced. 399 of those are permanently supportive housing units. Again, 133% of the original goal. 774 are deeply affordable units, 129% of our original goal. And 835 are family-sized units, 129% of our original goal. In the next slide, in addition to closely following progress on production goals, the committee has also been reviewing where new units will be created. Again, just like we talk about in the work we do in fair housing, it's to ensure that they are meeting the intent of increasing access to opportunity and that we're highlighting community partnerships and preventing displacement in our community as outlined in that original framework. As described in the current progress report, 83% of those 1,859 units constructed or planned to be constructed are located in high opportunity areas in our community. These new homes are located in areas with access to transportation, jobs, open spaces, high quality schools, services, and amenities. 39% of the nearly 1,500 units that were purchased, constructed, or planned are located in areas at high risk for gentrification. 93% of the projects include permanently supportive housing units. And the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the goals around equity and contracting and the targets that were set for PHB's bond projects. The goals were set at reaching 30% of construction costs for utilization of certified, disadvantaged, minority women, emerging small business, service disabled, veteran contractors, exceeding the city's goal of the usual 20%. PHB also established a new target of 20% DMESB SDV utilization of professional or soft services, such as architects, surveyors, and engineers. The Bond Oversight Committee is pleased to report that all of the projects in construction are on track to meet, and in several instances exceed, the Housing Bureau's targets for both hard and soft costs on these projects. At the end of 2022, the 10 bond projects that completed or were under construction achieved 32% certified firm participation for hard costs collectively, including 24% participation by certified DMWBE firms, exceeding PHB's 14% sub-goal category.
Can you just read it? So are these the outcomes or are these the goals? I wasn't clear on
The goal was 30% and the outcome
Was
if I'm reading that
32?
right, is 32?
Correct.
Okay, and then soft cost, the goal was 20%, and what was the outcome?
The outcome was 24%
And
yep.
apprentice and workforce diversity?
And workforce diversity is coming up in the next section.
Ah, got it, okay, thank you.
And I'll add, for example, one of the projects, the Los Adelitas project was actually near my home. Completed construction at the end of 2022. Some of you may have been at the recent grand opening. Exceeded these targets, achieving 37% for hard cost construction contracts, including 29% for MWBE firms and 81% for professional services contracts for DMWESB SDV certified firms. So Portland's housing bond projects are also achieving the goals of the apprentice and workforce diversity program of a minimum of 20% of labor hours worked on contracts that exceed $300,000 and to make sure that they are worked by state registered apprentices. Additionally, PHB set an aspirational goal that 22% of the total apprentice and journeyman level hours are worked by BIPOC individuals, and 9% of apprentice and 6% of journeyman level hours are worked by women. So those are the targets. The outcome for the labor hours worked on contracts by state registered apprentices was at 22% in 2022. The outcome for the apprentice and journeyman level hours worked by BIPOC individuals was 39% for apprentice and 34% for journey hours. And for the outcomes on apprentice and journeyman level hours worked by women, 15% of the apprentice hours were worked by women on the projects. So exceeding all of those goals. Finally, in the next slide, progress has been made to increase access for the priority communities that were identified in that framework, and through alignment of services with lots of community partners and those in the homeless and houselessness systems of care that we have here in our community. 2/3 of the bond-funded projects have partnered with culturally specific agencies such as the Native American Rehabilitation Association, Native American Youth and Family Center, Familias en Acción, and the Immigrant Refugee Community Organization that help provide supportive services and referrals for the projects. Additionally, our supportive housing developers have partnered with clinical, mental health, and addiction service partners here in our community, including folks like Cascadia Behavioral Healthcare, Central City Concern, LifeWorks Northwest, and New Narrative. Some of the new partnerships we've seen in this current annual report include Vibe of Portland at the Cathedral Village, the Boys and Girls Club of Portland at Crescent Court, Cascade Age Projects at the Joyce, and Centro Cultural at Alder 9. And finally, in the next slide, one of the important elements of the work that we've been doing is around transparency and collaboration with community partners as one of our guiding principles. The Oversight Committee ensures that housing stakeholders and members of our Portland communities are kept informed and have opportunities to provide us feedback. As an example, of course, our bond oversight committees are public meetings, open to the public, taking public testimony. We've also had regular updates from the project teams and presentations from those partners that have been involved in these projects, which has been really, really enlightening to see the work that they're doing. The committee, we work closely with the really fantastic staff at PHB and the project development teams to communicate progress on the projects through reports, newsletters, and meetings. We've also engaged community to inform the implementation and development of the bond projects as they continue to move forward. So, through alignment with our homeless service providers here in the community and culturally specific agencies and other community organizations, we've worked to create housing for communities that we know have been disproportionately impacted by our housing crises. Those communities of color, families, including families with children, immigrants and refugees in our community, and intergenerational households. Also, households experiencing houselessness or at imminent risk of houselessness, and households that are facing or imminent facing displacement from their communities. So with that, I'll pass it to my colleague, our chair, Todd Struble.
Good afternoon. Next slide, please. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Todd Struble. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm pleased to serve as the chair of the Bond Oversight Committee. We have 7 projects that are providing affordable housing to Portlanders. This data represents the Ellington and East Burnside apartments. Traffic data is collected at least annually to track how well bond projects are serving the priority communities outlined in the framework. Projects that opened in 2022 will report their demographic data later this year and will be available for the 2023 report when we do this again next year. Slide, please. Demographic data is collected at least annually to track how well bond projects are serving the priority communities outlined in the framework. With respect to race and ethnicity in 2023, will update its affirmative fair housing market plan to increase housing in the bond's target communities. We will then have a clear idea of who is living in the open Portland bond projects. The third focus of our report is maintaining fiscal accountability. Reviewing expenditures and ensuring financial accountability is a core responsibility of the Bond Oversight Committee. Bond dollars are clearly and separately tracked. As of December 31st, 2022, $156.8 million of bond funds were expended on project acquisitions and projects under construction. Additionally, $103.8 million in bond funds remain committed for the projects awarded through 2022. 2023 as distribution continue for projects under construction. Total remaining funds at year end is $457.3 thousand, which will be allocated to fill funding gaps at awarded projects. Auditor Harvey M. Rose Associates completed a financial audit of the housing bond for July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021 fiscal year in October 2022 with no findings. And a few additional notes. Bond funds for future projects are fully allocated and remaining interest and future interest credits will be used for funding gaps. These funds include 7% delivery fee, program delivery fee, which is in other words, Portland Housing Bureau's administration costs. Interest and credits will continue to grow as the issued but unused bond funds earn additional interest. Please. 5 projects opened in 2022, providing 538 affordable units throughout the city and housing more than 1,200 Portlanders. We have a Crescent Court in April, 50 units in Hayu Tillotson in July, 110 units at Cathedral Village in August, 141 units at Las Adelitas in October, and Starlight, formerly known as the Westwind, in November. Next slide. A few more. We had 93 units at the Aurora, 66 units at the Joyce, 128 units at Anna Mann House, and 4 units at the Emmons Place. Then looking forward to 2024 and 2025, there'll be 206 units at 3000 Southeast Powell, 159 units at Alder 9, 61 units at Francis and Claire, and 9 units at Barber Apartments, expected to open in 2025. And that's all I have to report, so I'll transition it back to Megan.
Thanks, Todd.
Great, thank you, Todd. We would like to conclude our report today with remarks from some of our partners whose expertise, partnership, and projects highlight the goals and achievements of Portland's Housing Bond. First, I would like to welcome Paul Lumley, Executive Director of Native American Youth and Family Services, and I believe Paul is joining us virtually. Hey, Paul.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good afternoon, Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners. My name is Paul Lumley. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Native American Youth and Family Center and a citizen of the Yakama Nation. Thank you for the opportunity to share information about NAYA's Tisolo Village redevelopment project. This is a critical and transformational project for NAYA and the community we serve. Tisolo Village was originally built in the 1970s by a Native housing provider called Low Income Housing for Native Americans in Portland, Oregon. In 2008, the city and the organization needed to transfer the asset to another entity and wanted to keep Tisolo Village with the Native-led organization. NAYA stepped up and took ownership over Tisolo Village. In 2019, NAYA formed a 6-person team to participate in a permanent supportive housing technical assistance institute organized by OHCS. We delved deeply into the question of how to stabilize Tisolo Village. NAYA's team was primarily BIPOC and women who had decades of combined and direct experience serving Native and BIPOC community members. NAYA has been gradually and intentionally building our capacity for a decade now. Our 3 recent COLI projects have 165 units of affordable housing. We now have enough relevant experience so we can step into our first low-income housing tax credit project as a lead developer, which is at Tisolo Village. We knew that relocating the 34 households that were living at Tisolo Village would be the biggest challenge. The successful relocation of residents was our #1 priority. We started communicating with residents about the redevelopment project approximately a year and a half before anyone had to move. Additional contractors were hired to provide every household individualized attention to ensure residents' needs were addressed through the stressful and challenging process. We raised additional resources to provide substantially more financial relocation benefits to residents than that was required of us. We brought staff from various programs to support residents. We even designed a financial wellness program specifically for Tisolo Village residents to stabilize and strengthen their financial position. This led to having 22 Tisolo Village households register for individual development accounts, a match savings program that helps people achieve their financial, educational, and housing goals. Those 22 households are now in the process of receiving up to $198,000 in match savings funds. 2 households became first-time home buyers by using our cash relocation payment combined with additional home buying assistance provided by NAYA. Several other families are actively pursuing home ownership as well. Located on a large site off Lombard in North Portland's Portsmouth neighborhood, the Tisolo Village redevelopment will provide 58 units of integrated permanent supportive housing with a varied mix of studios, 1, 2, and 3-bedroom apartments. 16 of the units are reserved for homeless families. Almost half of the units have project-based subsidy, and the units on average will serve households at 40% area median income or lower. Amenities and features include beautiful outdoor space with native plantings and an ample play area for children. We also designed generous community and private spaces for culturally specific supportive services provided by the Native American Rehabilitation Association. We worked with Carlton Hart Architecture to integrate trauma-informed design throughout the site. We prioritized resident accessibility and comfort, including 2 elevators, high-efficiency air conditioning in units and common areas, and a layout that supports safety and security. Coles Construction, our general contractor, helped lead us to a cost-effective and energy-efficient development. The city should be very proud that Tisolo Village is being developed by a Native-led organization and being built by a Black-owned general contractor. This is a model for future development. The team stepped into numerous project challenges and obstacles with bravery and trust in each other. We never compromised on decisions that would later impact future residents and instead worked harder to raise additional competitive resources. We held firm on utilizing culturally relevant materials and ensured supportive housing elements were incorporated in design and construction. We maintained robust funding for culturally specific resident services when chipping away at services fundings would have solved a budget gap. We have many funding partners to thank. The $36 million project was funded by Metro Housing Bond through Portland Housing Bureau, thank you, as well as other public funders, including OHCS, the Portland Clean Energy Fund, Home Forward, Metro through its Transit-Oriented Development Program, and the Federal Home Loan Bank. We could not have completed the project without our wonderful philanthropic partners whose initial support and belief in us was critical to being awarded 9% tax credits and other private resources. We look forward to completing construction in the summer of next year and having a fully leased up building by December 2024. We appreciate that the city continues to support BIPOC developers. Critically important, however, is that the city prioritizes and elevates BIPOC developers. The reason is because we are closely connected and more responsive to the community and residents. We need the city to create opportunities to access land and prioritize funding for BIPOC developers to continue their practice. Thank you so much for supporting this important project for NAE and the Native community. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Paul. Next up, I would like to introduce Sally Erickson, Social Services Manager at Catholic Charities.
Thank you, Megan. Good afternoon, everyone. As Megan said, I'm Sally Erickson with Catholic Charities of Oregon. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm very happy to be here today to highlight the Cathedral Village Apartments, a 110-unit affordable family property in the St. John's neighborhood. Cathedral Village includes 8 units of permanent supportive housing for families who are referred through the county's coordinated access system. The property was developed by Related Northwest in partnership with Catholic Charities, and we are the on-site service provider. The property is in an ideal location. It's across the street from Cathedral Park in view of the St. John's Bridge, and it's close to public transportation and services. 74 of the units are affordable to households at 30% AMI, and the remaining 36 units are at 60%. In the lease-up process, we reached out to community organizations, including culturally specific nonprofits, local schools, and immigrant refugee households for referrals. And the property has been fully leased for a few months. Cathedral is providing quality, affordable housing for a diverse array of families who had previously struggled to find housing they could afford. 70% of the residents are from communities of color. At least 24 residents transitioned from homelessness, including 14 from chronic homelessness. 40 of the residents in the building have disabling conditions, including mental health and addictions issues. I just wanted to highlight a few lessons learned from this project. One is around furnishings. In addition to our 8 PSH families, more than a dozen households transitioned from homelessness, and they moved in with nothing, no furnishings or household goods. For those in the PSH units, we were fortunate to have client assistance funds, and we could make appointments with Community Warehouse, although their services are in high demand. We sometimes had to wait weeks to schedule an appointment. For the other families where we didn't have budgeted client assistance funds, our on-site staff scrambled to get donated furnishings for those families. The other thing I just wanted to highlight is services needs. At the beginning, we intended to have supportive services, a social worker to support the 8 PSH families, but we found that many of the families who were moving into the 30% units, as I said, were transitioning from homelessness and had struggled for a long time and asked for additional social work help. So Catholic Charities was able to deploy an additional family case manager to support some of those families. It would have been particularly helpful in this first year, to have enhanced resident services so that residents had someone to go to after hours for help with things like unauthorized guests or medical emergencies or security concerns or urgent maintenance issues. I'll stop there in the interest of time, and I'm happy to take any questions. And thank you very much for all of your work in making this fantastic project happen.
Great, thank you, Sally. And last up, we have Ryan Hood, a Senior Project Manager, and Steph Condor, Senior Vice President of Development, both from Related Northwest.
We're gonna flank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and Mayor Ted Wheeler. Thank you so much for having us. I'm Ryan Hood. I'm a Senior Project Manager with Related Northwest, and I'm happy to share an update on our Crescent Court project. Crescent Court completed just a year ago today. I remember seeing a few of you actually at the grand opening. We're incredibly proud about the project. It's 138 units, of family housing with 7 permanent supportive housing units integrated as well. It leased up very smoothly in 6 months, and it stabilized in the next 3, and we actually just hit a great milestone on Friday with a conversion to our permanent financing. The project is a co-development and partnership with Central City Concern, who's also providing on-site comprehensive services. They're also providing case management to the 7 integrated permanent supportive housing units on site as well, which has been very successful. The project integrates the Boys and Girls Club for their first time co-locating their club on affordable housing. And it's been a tremendous success as well, providing critically needed care for school-aged children and families, ultimately kind of being used as a tool to bridge that gap between when folks are working and when the school day ends, which as many of us know is kind of a challenge. The club itself has about 15 to 20 enrollees right now, and we anticipate that growing now that the project is stabilized. And we're really looking forward to a very safe and smoothly operating project for many, many years to come. I'm going to hand it off to Steph, who's going to discuss some broader challenges and trends in affordable housing.
Hi there, Steph Condor, Related Northwest. I use she, her pronouns. Thank you for having us here today. We're really appreciative of being able to partner with Portland Housing Bureau. I want to give them a shout out just first and foremost of, we work across the state working in a lot of jurisdictions, and I point to Portland Housing Bureau quite often to say that's the gold standard. The expedited program with permitting is super helpful. We don't see that in other jurisdictions. The pre-development loans that Portland Housing Bureau provides, we don't see that in other jurisdictions. Things like this is what creates a signal to developers that you are looking for affordable housing, that you are trying to do everything possible with your policy to bring an environment that is conducive to delivering expeditious and quality affordable housing. So I want to say, I point to your documents a lot. I point to your programs a lot. Please keep these things in place. They are making a difference. It makes it a lot easier. And when we look at opportunities, we look at things like that. Where can we get it done? Where can we get it done quickly? What's a friendly environment to work in? And I think Portland does exude that, so thank you. I do want to share with you, though, quickly in the macro environment, what we have been faced with over the last year to 2 years. We're all very aware of rising interest rates. Over the last year, we've seen 9 increases. This construction interest alone has tripled. So where we have had maybe $1 million interest for construction cost, right, for our construction loan, it's now $3 million. I just want to give context of how big of a gap that's creating in deals. Cost escalations, we have seen 1% to 2% a month over a year. That could be well over 20%. We are seeing a little bit of softening, but not a lot. So it's still a very prevalent issue. When you put just those 2 things together, that can create a very significant gap and hurdle to delivering all of this housing that you've been able to do through the Portland bond. Also, we're seeing a lot of supply chain issues. Electrical gear is having lead times in some areas up to 36 months. Our construction periods are 24 months, maybe 18 months. So there are some buildings that will not be able to deliver because they can't get to permanent power. We've been working with PGE. We sent a consolidated letter as a consortium of developers identifying this as an issue. And they have been helpful, but they haven't adopted where affordable housing is a prioritized project. And we would love to see that, just saying. So these aren't items that I've identified that I think that you can directly control, but I want to highlight this because often as developers, we're scrutinized for cost controls and things of that nature. And I just, need folks to understand that the funding thresholds of the past are not applicable to right now, what we're seeing in the market. I think things that you can control that would be helpful is the predictability and time sensitivity for funding. This is really critical. A big piece of the risk that we have is delivery, right? And if we can't identify literally when funding is going to come in, it really changes the risk profile and what we pursue and what we don't pursue. So I think aligning strategically with the state, with resources, eliminating multiple rounds to be able to get whole on a deal is going to be very critical in the next 24 months. Also, I'm happy to see Senate Bill 847 come through, which is a law that really talks about BOLI and mixed use and affordable housing. That's something that we were recently hit with on a project that was a huge impact. And, this is preventing preschools from going and coupling and co-locating in affordable housing and other really deeply beneficial things that we can bring to the community. So I'm very happy to see that. And then lastly, because there is a good amount of affordable housing happening right now, our MWESB sub-tiers are really maxed out. And so I encourage you to look at some of the policies that we have locally and look at how the state are looking at basically accounting for the participation. At the state level, they will take COVID certified, Washington State certified, federally certified, and certifiable firms. Locally in Portland, we only take COVID certified, and I think we're really missing out on a big opportunity because sometimes COVID doesn't always meet the needs of some subs. They may feel more comfortable going federal or Washington certification because of just the rigor to get certified. So I think we need to think about that. It will also create more capacity. So that's my comments about what we're seeing in the market. But again, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Lastly, I would like to introduce Shanice Williams, a resident at one of our projects, Crescent Court.
Welcome.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shanice Williams, and I am a resident at Crescent Court. Thank you so much for having me here today. I wanted to share with you all a bit about my background and how much of a positive impact having affordable housing has had on my family and me. The start of our many hardships began back in 2013. My fiance Adam was severely injured early that year in a near fatal accident that absolutely turned our world upside down, spiraling into a place we never could have imagined for ourselves. This traumatic event happened during a time in our lives when we were both struggling with the start of opiate addiction. Having Adam fully disabled and me in no condition to hold down a job or take care of basic tasks, we ended up having to live in a tent for several months. Not wanting that to be where our story ends, Adam and I desperately tried to climb out of active addiction. And we did. As of November 2014, we've both been living drug-free lives. We wanted our whole family back together in a place where our children felt safe to lay their little heads down at night. Before moving to Crescent Court, we'd been living in an RV for 5 years. They are not designed to be lived in full time. And by the summer of 2022, we had mold issues, electrical fires from running basic necessities, and no fresh water for days at a time. It was extremely hazardous and left me feeling like there was no way out, no help to be had. I shared all my worries with my recovery counselor, and she pointed me towards Central City Concern. After sorting through many affordable homes that wouldn't accept Adam's companion canine, Ollie, I finally found one that would keep us all together. We were lucky to find an ADA apartment for the hearing impaired that would suit Adam and our family perfectly. The process was quick, easy, and by September of 2022, we had the keys. Moving into the 3-bedroom apartment has truly been a dream come true. My children have never had their own rooms before or their own bathroom. They now have clean clothes to wear to school because we have a washer and dryer in the unit. They've been able to make so many friends and enjoy their days at the on-site Boys and Girls Club. My youngest son's school is right next door, as well as the park he loves. We have the stability and safety we have all yearned for. We finally have a future here, one that I didn't think was possible. I can focus on seeking employment, which will allow my children access to things they haven't been able to enjoy in the past. Living at Crescent Court, I feel safe and secure because only my neighbors can unlock the building's doors. Not having to worry about our security or having a dry place to sleep, we're able to focus on all the wonderful things that life has to offer. This has been a huge blessing for all of us, and not just for my family, but my neighbors as well. It brings me so much joy to see their smiling faces in the hallways, to see children feeling safe to run and play in the courtyard playground built just for them. I was so fearful that my call for help would go unanswered. Now I know someone is listening, and I will continue to tell others in my community that life can be better. Thank you to all who made our dream a reality and for giving my family a second chance at a better life by making this housing accessible to us.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, and congratulations.
Thank you.
That's really cool.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that both of you went through a program and you both came out on the other side successful.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Seriously,
it was really
thank
cool. Thank you for sharing it.
you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me here. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our presentation today. If there are any questions, Housing Production Manager Jill Chen, oh, she's still here, is here to answer any questions.
Colleagues,
not,
any
thank you very
questions? And do we have public testimony, Keelan?
No one signed up.
All right, well, if there's no questions, it was a good report, very thorough.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated. I'll entertain, Commissioner Maps has a question.
If I may, I'll have some closing comments when we do the vote. I do wonder, is there any talk of Housing Bond Part 2?
Not me. Thank you, Commissioner Maps. For the record, I'm Jill Chen, Housing Investments Portfolio Preservation Manager. I believe there is discussions about Housing Bond 2.0. And I will probably like to defer to Commissioner Rubio for that question because she's been leading a lot of that conversation.
Thank you. We are having conversations about that, yes, and looking at other things as well, opportunities at the state.
Great. Well, I think we have a housing work session coming up at some point in the coming months. I look forward to that. I'm not an expert in the housing space, but as I watch our various programs that are out there, the housing bond looks like a real success. I'm happy to see that, and it seems appropriate for Portland to think about carrying this project into the future, especially as we begin to wrap up Housing Bond 1.0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Commissioner Maps moves. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Ryan seconds. Any further discussion on the report? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ryan?
Thank you. That was a great report. I want to just call out a few things. The family housing numbers make me so happy. I think the city was behind on that for a couple decades. I recall when I was on the school board, every time there would be a new housing project that Portland was a part of, they would always be studios and one-bedrooms. So I'm really pleased that that focus was there. I also like the workforce focus and the developer focus, to listen to Executive Director Paul Lumley speak of how the NIA community is now, the organization has built their capacity to be a developer. And I also don't think we give this enough attention, how hard the developers have to work with the nonprofit partners to leverage. So I think what's the big story, in my opinion, about the housing bond is the leveraging that occurs. Perhaps that's one reason we're exceeding goals, is because we brought in other resources, and that multiplier effect really took off. So I really wanted to underscore that. And finally, to the participant who came up at the end, just for today. All right. I accept the report.
Maps?
I wanted to thank the Housing Bureau, Commissioner Rubio, and everyone else who helped make this project and program such a success. As I mentioned earlier during my questions, the housing bond looks like a really promising model to bring affordable housing here to the city of Portland. As we enter the final stage of this round, I think everyone involved deserves a big round of applause and our thanks. I look forward to learning more about our strategies for bringing affordable housing to the Portland metropolitan area, and for these reasons and more, I vote aye.
Rubio?
I want to thank the great Housing Bureau team and the Bond Oversight Committee. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, everyone that's here who pulled this report and presentation together. I also want to thank the other guests that are here as well, and also especially appreciate the resident that spoke today. Your story was completely inspiring and exactly why we're doing this work. So it was really needed to hear your story today, and it really brought it home why we're doing this work. So thank you for being here and for sharing your story. Our city is facing challenges that can't be addressed overnight, and I know that it can be disheartening at times to know how far we still have yet to go, but I'm hoping that the success of this bond and the telling of these stories today gives all of us and the public at home some hope, and also because we're making headway. And this year's report highlights the significant progress and achievement of the bond in fulfilling the promise that it made to voters, despite the challenges that we experienced this last year. And this year's report also reflects the tremendous collaboration among our funding partners at the Joint Office and also Home Forward. And all of this while leading with racial equity to increase economic and housing opportunities for communities of color and other vulnerable populations. And this program is one of the many steps we're taking in the city to align with our community's priorities to create more permanently affordable housing in underserved areas, prevent displacement, and create more housing solutions that meet the needs of families and address homelessness. So very proud of this work today, and I'm happy to vote aye.
Wheeler.
Well, I promised myself years ago I wouldn't use any mountain climbing analogies, but I feel inspired today. There comes a time when you're climbing any mountain, or at least any mountain worth climbing, where you think you cannot go any farther. And then you do, because you realize you have to just work through the challenges to get to the summit. And so you take a step, and then you take another step, and then you take a step after that, and you just keep going. And I was inspired actually by you, Commissioner Rubio. So if you don't like my mountain climbing analogy, you have nobody to blame but yourself. She's right. It's sometimes disheartening to see how far we have to go, to consider the number of units that we have yet to achieve in this community to bring parity to our market. I think it's about 20-something thousand units. Doesn't matter whether it's 20 or 24, the number is huge. But the only way we're going to address it is one step at a time. And the Portland Housing Bond, I think, was a unique step for this city. And I want to acknowledge the longstanding history behind this. We don't spend a lot of time thanking Charlie Hales, but he was instrumental in getting this ball rolling. The late, great Commissioner Nick Fish, he was instrumental in getting the ball rolling on this. And I was very pleased to do my part of this, sherping this along, which, you know, we slowed things down in 2017. And there was a big outcry about slowing things down so that we could bring the community along and ask the community, how would you like these resources to be deployed? And the community told us two things. They told us, number one, that they wanted family units, not just a bunch of SROs, not that SRO units aren't really critically important. They are, but half were dedicated towards family units to reflect the demographics of our community and the need. The other thing we heard from people around their expectations was they wanted half to be very low income units. And the Housing Bureau pivoted to make sure that those needs were met. And here we are all these years later, and lots of people have touched this, lots of people have led, lots of city employees have done great work, lots of commissioners have been engaged, Commissioner Ryan, Commissioner Rubio, just in the last couple of years. And here we are with, I think people are keenly aware that I'm willing to criticize local government when it deserves to be criticized, but here's one where we've really done extremely well. We have beat the goals in terms of the number of units promised. We have beat the goals in terms of the time frame. We have accepted and exceeded the community goals that were placed in addition on top of this bond. And so I concur with Commissioner Mapps that if there was ever a ballot measure that went to the public where we can hold our heads high and say, we made a commitment to you and we delivered, this is it. So I want to thank Commissioner Rubio for her continued leadership. Thank all of you in the Housing Bureau. Thank the people on the Bond Oversight Committee who spent a lot of time. And there's a couple of members here today, and I know some are watching. The pay isn't good, but the job's really important, and you've done an exceptional job in helping to shape and to hold us all accountable. And so I just think it's great to have this opportunity once a year. I think this is, I don't know how many years it's been, I guess since 2016, right? Where we've had this, and each year the news has just gotten better. Thank you. I vote aye, and the report's accepted. Thanks for your presentation today.
Thank you.
All right. Do people need to take a break before we go into our next one? Are we good? Yes. Why don't we just take a brief break? Why don't we just take a 5-minute recess, and we'll come back for our last item. We're in recess.
Recording.
314.
Transmit report to the city on Portland Police Bureau officer-involved shootings and critical incidents by the OIR group.
Colleagues, this afternoon we have the 8th report from the OIR group regarding PPB officer-involved shootings and critical incidents. I know that this has been a long and intense day for council sessions, and I'm somewhat sorry that this shows up at the very end of the day, but it's obviously an important subject. Here to introduce our presenters is Ross Caldwell, who's the director of the city's Independent Police Review. Welcome, Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Wheeler, members of council. I'm Ross Caldwell, IPR director. I'll keep this brief because I know we're a little over time. IPR holds the contract with the OIR group that produced this report. As you all know, the city code requires IPR to retain an outside expert to review completed investigations of officer-involved shootings and in custody deaths. And since 2010, the OIR group has been that outside expert. So as Mayor Wheeler said, there have been 8 of these reports. This one covers 8 incidents in 2018 and 2019. I think these reports are extremely valuable because they provide a thorough, objective review by professionals with a ton of experience of the most serious uses of force by PPB. They touch on important issues that are crucial to the police bureau and the city going forward. Just to name a few, interacting with people experiencing mental health crisis and the importance of implementing a body-worn camera program. In the years the city has been working with OIR, OIR folks have met with elected officials and their staff, community advocacy groups, and leadership at PPB many, many times. So there's a good relationship there that goes back many years. I understand you're taking public testimony today, but I wanted to mention that there will also be a public meeting on May 3rd at 5:30 hosted by the Citizen Review Committee, and the OIR folks will be there to answer questions about this report. So if people don't get a chance today, they can come and get their questions answered at that meeting. So I hope everyone's had a chance to review the report, and thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you. I'm not sure who's presenting next.
Mayor Wheeler, I guess I'm going to go next. Good to be with you all again, commissioners, mayor, and the Portland community. As Mr. Caldwell indicated, we presented this report and it was released by IPR a couple of weeks ago. I've already received good feedback from your community from various sources about the report. And this is our opportunity to give you a high-level presentation. We're not going to go into every recommendation. We're not going to go into every incident, but we thought we would touch on some of the more striking features of the report and some of the recommendations that we put forward in this 8th version. It's been our privilege to be receive this assignment over 13 years, and we certainly, as a result of that extended relationship, have an opportunity to see some longitudinal change, improvement, and when there hasn't been as much improvement, to comment on that as well. I have 2 of my colleagues with me today to help me present, Stephen Connolly and Julie Rulin. They are going to talk about just a couple of the recommendations and features of the report, and then they will circle back to me for some final remarks, and then certainly we're going to be available for any questions that any of the commissioners or you might have, Mayor. Julie?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for having us here today. Or I guess not here. I'm a little sorry we're not in your city to present this, but happy to be able to share our report with you and absolutely willing to take any questions that you have. I wanted to focus on several recommendations that relate to the training division reviews and that cross over a few of the incidents that we looked at. Over the years, we have been largely impressed with the work that the training division does in response to these officer-involved shootings and the way they analyze these incidents. And we have frequently credited the Bureau for the willingness to commit to writing the type of critiques that training produces. We don't see that willingness in a lot of the agencies that we work for. And that praise is also here in this report. But as we always do, we have pointed out some areas throughout the report and our discussion of individual cases where we think The training division could have dug a little deeper, could have offered a little more analysis on certain points. But largely, we found that this set of training division reviews to be thorough and responsive to the relevant issues. Those reviews and their analysis, they walk through officer decision making, and then they make conclusions on each one of those points about whether an officer's performance was consistent with their training. The training division also often makes recommendations related to given cases. When they see some need for a remediation, they make a written recommendation. And we found that the Bureau is not always consistent in the way it handles these recommendations. There's no formal or documented consideration that happens as part of the Bureau's formal review process, which is, it's one thing that's not documented. That's not always great. But the important thing is that sometimes these recommendations don't get communicated as a result of that failure to document. They don't get communicated to the teams or the individuals that need to hear about it in order to implement them. At least they don't hear about it with the sufficient authority behind it to get things done. So for example, in the Hansen case that we discuss in our report, training saw some deficiencies in communications in the way that canine officers communicate their locations and status. And they made a recommendation related to some additional training for canine officers. But when we checked in with the canine unit to follow up to see whether those recommendations had been implemented, canine didn't have a record or any kind of recollection of the recommendation itself. They may not have even learned about it, and had not taken any action to address the critique that training presented. On the other hand, we did see a couple of cases where the training division recommendations were explicitly put into some formal action plan. And those were cases where the recommendation related to the training division itself. So for example, in the case involving Mr. Brock, the training recommended that the Bureau develop some new training regarding active shooter situations and continued an inquiry into the effectiveness of less lethal weapon systems. And when we checked in with training on the status of those issues, we got detailed responses with exactly what had been done and when. So that was sort of the good news. But the inconsistency in the overall response led to one of our overarching recommendations that you find at the end of our report, and that's recommendation number 17, which is for the Bureau to more formally consider training division recommendations so that an implementation plan can be developed and put into play. A final recommendation stemming from a training issue that we wanted to highlight came from the Martin case, where the training review there, in a sort of brainstorming way, one of the members of training division suggested that the Bureau might want to look into a type of long-range pepper spray. And that suggestion didn't seem to go anywhere. And while we're not endorsing the pepper spray necessarily, we do think that that kind of creative and innovative thinking ought to be given some space to be pursued. And we appreciate the Bureau's response in their written response to our report. They accept this suggestion, and the response involves a commitment to have the deputy chief hold a meeting after a police review board meeting to take some time for this kind of brainstorming and creative thinking. So those were the sort of training focused recommendations we wanted to feature. I'm going to turn it to my colleague, Steve Connolly, to talk about some others.
Thank you, Julie, and good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and commissioners. My name is Stephen Connolly, and I am a colleague of Mike and Julie's. This is my first time actually working on one of the critical incident review projects here in the city of Portland. So it was an interesting education for me, and in terms of learning how comprehensive the process is in many ways, and comparing it to some of the other jurisdictions that we work in. And as Julie said, we oftentimes see a lot of commendable aspects to the rigor of the department's review and hope that some of our recommendations and observations are helpful. I just wanted to showcase a couple of things about one of the cases that I had the opportunity to sort of take the lead on reviewing, and that was one that was differently situated from the other incidents that we looked at in most of the other incidents that OIR group has covered. And that's because oftentimes the cases involve officer-involved shootings, and that is obviously a serious and important area of review. But one of the cases I looked at was a non-shooting critical incident that the department looked at, and it involved a neck restraint of a subject who was not even seriously injured as a result of the encounter, but it did implicate a lot of things. And even though the district attorney's office declined to put it through its normal review process for deadly force cases involving discharge of a firearm, the Bureau went through its full administrative review process in terms of assessing what had happened and treating it as a potential deadly force case that sort of implicated all the different aspects of its review process. So we thought it was good that they took an inclusive approach. And one of the things that I wanted to point out about it is that under 2023 conditions, the review process, I think, would have evolved a little bit differently. And that is because the whole idea of neck restraints has gotten some additional attention in the national assessment of law enforcement. And more locally, the state of Oregon had joined some other states in terms of passing legislation that placed restrictions on law enforcement's ability to use neck restraints of any kind, not just the carotid control hold that is probably the most commonly recognized form of neck restraint, but in the aftermath of the George Floyd murder, the renewed attention on neck restraints caused a lot of jurisdictions to tighten up the restrictions and to treat all neck restraints as a serious use of force that should only be reserved to a deadly force context. In the at the time of this incident, which was 2018, the Portland did have the Bureau did have an approach that restricted the use of the carotid hold to deadly force circumstances only. It was the threshold for use of the carotid hold was only in a deadly force context. And that was actually not an approach that all agencies around the country have taken. So the department was already a little bit more restrictive than other places. Interestingly, in this case, the technique that the officer used was kind of a one-sided neck restraint that was born of the circumstances as he was struggling with this individual, and other officers were trying to get him into handcuffs and kind of neutralize the threat of the gun, the firearm that the subject possessed. And it was, again, a one-sided neck restraint. And the training division in this case determined that it wasn't a carotid hold and didn't constitute deadly force. I think that analysis would be different today in terms of Portland's the police bureau's own policy restrictions, and again the larger recognition that neck restraints are something that needs to be taken very seriously and restricted to the most serious of situations and circumstances. And the other thing that I wanted to point out also came from that case, and it produced recommendation 1 in our report. And I'll just read the recommendation. The Bureau's holistic review of any critical incident should identify and address issues relating to officers' language and overall professionalism. One aside in this case was that one of the other officers, actually not the officer who used the neck restraint that kind of prompted the full-fledged review, one of the other officers used profanity in his efforts to gain compliance with the subject, and that was acknowledged by the officer. It was cited by the subject when he was interviewed by detectives in the case as being perceived by him as a sign of the aggression by the officers that sort of incited some of his resistance. And to the credit of the investigators in both the criminal case and the internal affairs investigators, they asked the officer about it and the officer provided his explanation, but then nothing else was done with it in terms of the training analysis or any formal department assessment or intervention. And it's an issue that has been noteworthy to us across several jurisdictions for a lot of the years that we've been working. We see it as a relatively common thing, especially in these adrenalized, intense situations, and there are potentially some problematic issues with it. And the Bureau does have policy relating to profanity, and according to the chiefs and the Bureau's response to our recommendations, they do address it. It just it was kind of at an earlier stage than this process, but we really just wanted to flag the issue and make people aware of that. Our view that the department, or excuse me, the Bureau should absolutely be focused on officer professionalism as one component of the review process, and the language and particularly the use of profanity in these conflict-based situations is a component of that. So again, as Julie said, we're happy to respond to any questions that folks have, and I'm going to turn it back over to Mike.
Thank you, Steve. And just to riff off of Steve's comments on the profanity, I think if and when, and I assume it will be when, the Bureau is outfitted with body-worn cameras, what our experience has been is that those cameras will capture a lot more of the comments that officers make in their encounters with citizens of Portland. And so I think it's a good time to start thinking about that and realizing how profanity might be a tool with regard to officer presence. Oftentimes it doesn't work to the advantage of the situation, and oftentimes it just doesn't look good. It makes the impression is that the officer may be out of control or angry or whatever, and resorting to that technique. I'm just going to touch on the last two points that we wanted to make, and then certainly be available for any questions. One of them is a recommendation we have made in the past, and that is what we'd like to see is when the Bureau gets together and does its analysis and makes determinations about whether the performance decision-making of officers met departmental expectations. They do that with regard to the use of force. They do that as a result of a recommendation we made years ago with regard to post-incident emergency aid and scene maintenance. But what they don't do is that they don't do a formal evaluation or assessment on any officer decision that's leading up to the incident. And these days, all of the attention, virtually all of the attention on critical incidents is on that piece. It's articulated more in terms of de-escalation now than any other concept, but to the degree that officers are using de-escalation techniques and methods or not, we think that is something that should be evaluated on every one of these critical incident cases. And we also think that there should be a finding recommended by Internal Affairs and adopted by the chief after going to the review board on that piece of the incident, because that's where a lot of times de-escalation techniques, if performed well, can reduce the likelihood that an officer will need to resort to deadly force. The last point that I'll make has to do with our last recommendation, and that is, as I indicated in our opening remarks, we've been doing this for a while. We've made a number of recommendations in the 7 previous reports, and that we have had success in the Bureau adopting a number of the recommendations. But there are also a number of the recommendations in which there has been a prior commitment to adopt or implement the recommendations, but then there has not been any follow through. And so the previous recommendation that I just discussed, we have made before, and the review process is still not incorporating that recommendation into the work that the Bureau is doing on these incidents. I think there's a lot of explanations for that. One of the explanations is that we are getting these cases back to the chief about 3 years after the incident. The other reason I think that's going on that may be a partial explanation for this is that there have been a lot of leaders at the Bureau over the 13 years we've been doing it. I think we have had 8 chiefs or interim chiefs over that period of time. So just as an example, your current chief wasn't chief for any of these shooting incidents. Even though he's been chief for almost 3 years now. So that is something to be, I think, explored. But we think at some point there ought to be an accounting by some group to take a look at all of the prior recommendations and to see what degree the Bureau has in fact implemented them on a going forward basis. So that is going to wrap up our opening remarks, but as indicated, we are certainly available for any questions you all may have. The other thing I do want to say, just as a final ending point, and that is, I don't want to feel like I'm overstating my concern about some of the recommendations not being adopted, because some have in fact been implemented, as I've mentioned. The other thing is that the mere fact that we're able to go in as an objective third party, access all of the confidential information that wouldn't be available to the general public, and then report out what we find in an unvarnished way, I think it provides the opportunity for your public to have a unvarnished record of what occurred, what the issues were, what the officer's decision making was, and any issues or concerns that we identify that we're able then to put in the report for community conversations. And I will close at that point.
Great, thank you. Appreciate all of you and appreciate the thoroughness of the report that you've provided to us. Colleagues, do you want me to take public testimony before we get to Q&A? Why don't we do that just so we can have everything on the table? Keelan, if you wouldn't mind, how many folks do we have signed up?
We have 3 people.
Very
signed
good.
up.
3 minutes each, name for the record, please. And Keelan will tee us up.
First up, we have Dan Handelman.
Oh, hello. Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. My name is Dan Handelman. I use he, him pronouns. I'm with the group Portland Cop Watch. Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners Gonzalez, Maps, Rubio, and Ryan. Well, I guess Commissioner Gonzalez isn't there right now. Portland Cop Watch is very pleased to have the opportunity to testify contemporaneously about the new OIR Deadly Force Report. We believe the last time public testimony was generally allowed was 7 years ago. It's unclear what caused delay in the release of this report, which covers shootings in 2018 and through the shooting of Lane Martin in July 2019. There have been 21 other incidents that occurred since Mr. Martin's death, all of which the community deserves to get more information about, and the Bureau needs to examine for training and policy issues. In general, CopWatch agrees with the recommendations of OIR, even when we don't agree with some of their observations or conclusions about the individual incidents. We continue to appreciate the group's willingness to challenge the decisions of the officers and those who reviewed their actions, to relay details to the public that are otherwise difficult to find, and to make meaningful recommendations, even though they themselves are becoming exasperated that the Bureau isn't implementing them all. In addition to Mr. Martin, 2 other controversial cases involving people in mental health crisis are covered in the report, the deaths of Samuel Rice and Andre Gladden. But the report's general approach to cases involving people who are clearly in mental health crisis boils down to 2 things. First, that, quote, recognizing and safely accommodating a subject's compromised decision-making can be challenging in a moment of conflict, close quote, and the old tired trope that the mental health system is broken. The mental health system did not kill Rice, Gladden, or Martin, or James Chassie, Keaton Otis, or dozens of others. The Portland police did. Also, both Gladden and Jonathan Harris, who had the chokehold applied to him, are black men. There's no analysis of whether race played a factor in those incidents. We appreciate that OIR is critical of Sergeant Kelly Van Blockman, who killed Rice after seeing him through a motel bathroom window without communicating his intent to other officers on the scene. It was nearly 3 years between the completion of OIR's last report in 2020 and the release of this one on March 10, even though it's dated January 2023. The observations you are hearing today are 4 to 5 years out of date. Sometimes the perspective of the community member who's subjected to deadly force is included, but for the 5 incidents that ended in death, there's little mention of other people's perspectives, such as family members who might have had something to add. Some important information is tucked into footnotes rather than being included in the narrative or analysis. For example, the fact that investigators did not interview the officer who was texting with Rice's girlfriend, who indicated she wanted the police to go away. It also seems they did not check Officer Van Blockman's claim that the radio channel was full, which was his excuse for not asking permission or alerting people that he was going to shoot Rice. Officer consider Vosu, who shot Andre Gladden, apparently wasn't trained how to handle evidence, which is why he moved the knife Gladden allegedly took from Vosu's vest, then put it back where he found it. An officer got into Vosu's car to escape the rain. The acting sergeant on the scene didn't take a statement from Vosu. We only watch cop shows on TV and know more about investigations than these folks. Lastly, OR is right to suggest investigators should have asked 6 other officers on scene why they did not shoot at Lane Martin when Officer Gary Duran fired his gun 11 times. I'll turn it over to my colleague Mark Porras now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mark Porras.
Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, you sound good.
Great. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Mark Porras. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm with the group Portland Cop Watch. Altogether, there are 18 recommendations in the new report. The recommendation to analyze the officers' actions that led up to the use of deadly force was made for the 4th time, seemingly bouncing off the Bureau like a rubber bullet. For the 2nd time, they asked the Bureau to be sure to collect medical records and photos of any injuries. Chief Lavelle agreed with all 18 recommendations more or less. You heard the OIR group suggest that the use of profanity, such as that used by Officer Giles in the Harris choking incident, should be investigated as part of the deadly force review. The chief claimed that such behavior would be addressed prior to the case getting to the police review board. It's not clear that any such misconduct has ever been dealt with in deadly force cases. Rather than commit to ensuring that someone like Officer Van Blockland be required to communicate with other officers on scene before taking independent action to kill someone, the chief states that the Special Emergency Reaction Team will check to be sure that they are, quote unquote, working within industry best practice. In the case where 4 officers shot at Ryan Beasley, they only hit him 2 times. In the 60 shootings covered in OIR reports, officers missed their targets altogether in 9 of them using 45 bullets. In 51 incidents, officers fired a total of 410 bullets. The chief says that studies suggest accuracy under stress is between 18 and 54%, depending upon the distance from the subject. So where do all those bullets go? Portland Cop Watch strongly recommends that the Bureau post online the database the chief referred to in his response, which apparently tracks all recommendations from the Police Review Board and maybe the OIR group and the training division as well. A very telling part of OIR's analysis is that one of the biggest holdups leading to these investigations lasting much longer than the 180 days required by the US DOJ settlement agreement is that the officers' supervisors do not write memos about their suggested findings in a timely way. They recommend that the memos either be required or that the PRB simply proceed without the commander's input. OIR mentions again that having footage from body-worn cameras would help a lot to determine more accurately what happened in these instances. While that may be true, it is to their credit that they acknowledge the footage is not perfect because it is only from one perspective. Portland Cop Watch repeats our note from 2019 that if a civilian body tasked with reviewing the deadly force cases at the time they happened used the same expertise and lenses as the OIR group, there likely would be more examples of officers being found out of policy and perhaps even disciplined. As a new oversight system is being designed, the Citizen Review Committee, which has not heard an appealed misconduct case since June 2021, should fulfill its obligation under City Code and make sure OIR's recommendations are being implemented. CRC is holding a meeting about OIR's report on May 3rd. It's unclear whether OIR will begin a new round of analysis at this point, since the IPR's list of deadly force cases from March 2023 indicates that of 21 incidents from 2019 through 2023, only 7 have been through the PRB process and are thus eligible for review. We urge IPR and City Council to order a new shooting review so work can begin immediately and finish before the new Oversight Board is up and running, likely sometime in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Debbie Iona.
Welcome, Debbie.
Hi, I'm Debbie Iona, representing the League of Women Voters of Portland. The League has been involved in issues related to police oversight since the 1980s. We regularly review these periodic reports. They are of great value, not just to the Police Bureau, but also to the public because they shed light on the most serious police community interactions and provide information the public would not otherwise know. We would like to thank the OIR group for the report and IPR for facilitating this work. In addition, we want to express our gratitude to Director Caldwell for releasing the report well in advance of today's council session. The League submitted written comments on Monday. I will touch on a few of the main points today. It is troubling to see some of the same recommendations repeated yet again. At least one deficiency, the failure to conduct prompt interviews of involved officers, dates back to the late 1990s. The OIR Group's next contract should include a thorough accounting of past recommendations and their current implementation status. Other findings and recommendations of note include the following. The report raises concerns about the lack of careful reflection and analysis by command staff in addressing specific areas of review in the investigations. A repeat recommendation about the importance of analyzing pre-shooting tactical decision-making still needs attention. It has the potential to save lives by avoiding the use of deadly force altogether. As the report notes, it is a well-accepted tenet that tactical decisions meant to keep officers safe reduce the likelihood that those officers will find themselves in a position where they feel deadly force is necessary. At least 4 of the 8 cases the OIR group reviewed involve people with mental health or addiction issues. And the Bureau should pay much more careful attention to the thoughtful analyses provided by the training division. Within the next few years, Portland will have a new community-centered oversight board responsible for handling police misconduct complaints. Its authority extends to shootings and in-custody deaths. Careful evaluation of closed investigations by experts in the field will continue to be essential to improving police practices and policies, and also to providing the public with information on cases of utmost community concern. Thank you again to IPR and the city for engaging the OIR group in this work, and to the consultants for their careful evaluation of these serious cases.
Thank you, Debbie.
That
Appreciate
completes testimony.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? I have a couple just clarifications. First of all, I want to underscore something Debbie just said. I appreciate the fact that we were given plenty of lead time on the release of this report. This gave me an opportunity to thoroughly review each of the recommendations that was made, as well as have communication through my staff to the Police Bureau to get their reactions. So I just want to say I appreciate that it wasn't rushed, that there was an opportunity for us to be really thorough in our approach to this. I did have some follow-up questions. First of all, it is noteworthy, and I'm speaking as generally as I can for obvious reasons, it is noteworthy how many of these deadly force incidents involve people who either have known behavioral health issues or are in crisis. And Dan, I always appreciate your testimony in the back and forth. Today, I want to gently disagree with you on something that you said. Mental health is a healthcare issue, but we still don't see it that way in this state or in this nation. It is still seen as a policing issue. And I say that because just by default, there are 2 places where people with severe mental health issues end up. They end up on our streets and they end up in our jails. And the necessary result of that unwillingness or inability to serve people with serious behavioral health issues is that they have interactions with law enforcement. I think all of us should agree readily we want fewer to know of those interactions. And outside of the Police Bureau, this council has had many discussions on that point. And I believe we've made some good investments on that front. We continue to advocate for policies at both the state and the federal level, as well as working with our county partners to rebuild what is effectively a broken behavioral health system here. So that's really more of a statement than it is a question. The use of profanity, that's interesting that we settled on that. And Michael, maybe I'm looking at you or looking at others. I want to be just super clear that is it professionalism you're concerned about, or is it that it is seen as an escalating behavior, or that just as a communications tool it leaves lots of room for misinterpretation? What specifically, I mean, we all agree we should swear less. I should too. But from a law enforcement perspective, what is your key point here?
Sure. I'll turn that over to Steve, who is our expert on this
All right,
topic.
thanks.
Steve?
Steve, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I would say all of the above to the different points that you were making. I think that the Bureau actually has a pretty good policy relating to profanity. And it is generally prohibited. And I can just kind of pull some of the language that I was looking at earlier today. But I think the idea is that there is a recognition that there are some circumstances where officer emotions and adrenaline are going to cause, contribute to profanity happening. And the officer himself in the case that we looked at actually said, it is rare for me. That is not my approach to policing. And it was done in a calculated and tactical way in order to make an impression on the subject. And that is just an issue that we think deserves attention, because we don't want it to be the case that this whole idea of tactical profanity and we're using it to get people's attention and let them know we're serious. We've seen too many cases where that exception swallows the rule, and all of a sudden nobody's really looking at any use of profanity because there are situations when it's recognized as being a reality. So the whole idea is just to encourage the Bureau to kind of make it a regular part of the assessment. And it's entirely possible that they're going to come to the conclusion that, hey, under the limited circumstances here, we don't feel like this requires a lot of follow-up or consequence for the officer, but we're paying attention. We know that it makes an impression. We don't teach tactical profanity in our training bureau as a suggested, force option. So we don't want to just let it go as routine.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer, Stephen. Canine unit policies, that also came up here, and I'm curious to know, is there a particular jurisdiction or jurisdictions you would have us look to with regard to specific written canine policies?
Julie, do you want to approach that?
Sure. Yeah, canines are certainly a hot topic here in California these days, as there's a bill pending that might prohibit all use of police canines in bite situations. But to clarify, the canine issue that came up in the case we looked at wasn't, at least the one I referenced in terms of the training division review, really didn't have anything to do with the canine per se, as it did with how the officer in that case communicated his response to the call. And he, rather than put it out over his MDC, he communicated directly with BOEC, and that perhaps limited others' ability, a sergeant, others in the precinct, to know that he was responding to this call that also involved deputies and wasn't primarily a police bureau call.
Okay, so would you put that in the category then of just improved communications and intentions? Is that how you describe that?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
that's helpful, and I know that came up in another circumstance as well. There was one situation where it was a hostage situation, and there was a hostage taker presumably holding a knife to a hostage. They were barricaded in an enclosed space, and there was questions about the on-scene sergeant's decision to engage. Can you speak generally what your recommendation was there?
Yeah, I think it was sort of an odd set of cases in that you had the situation you just described, Mr. Mayor, actually could apply to two different shootings in this group of 8, which is unusual. I mean, it was sort of striking that you had these very high stress hostage situations where officers were called on to respond in really difficult circumstances. I think the one you're referring to was the one involving Mr. Brock.
That is correct. Since you said so, I'll agree. That
did involve a sergeant who responded, and the sergeant got there, and I think the thing that was striking, we talk about in our report, is and this is a little bit, I guess, credit to the Bureau and their review process. I know we talked about the number of times we've had to make recommendations over and over again. In the first few years of our work in Portland, we were repeatedly talking and recommending that the Bureau address this issue of sergeants who are responding, not as sergeants, but as officers. And in this case, the sergeant did, but I want to say the review process, the training division went back to IA and said, we want you to ask him specifically about this because this is an issue. We want to make sure we're being thoughtful about the way we review this. And in that case, the sergeant presented a compelling reason for why he felt like he needed to jump in this one. It was there was somebody who had been injured with a knife who was seriously injured outside of the house. They knew that even though it was a knife, they compared this situation very much to how you'd respond to an active shooter. They knew that there was somebody inside the residence with a knife who'd already injured people, who was maybe injuring more people. There was an exigency to get into the place. The sergeant was there, and rather than stay back and act in a supervisory role, he decided to insert himself as part of the entry team and act as an officer. He articulated in his interview that I knew that there were 2 other sergeants responding just a couple of minutes behind me who could come in and take on that supervisory role. And so I decided to do it. And that, is not a thing that we're going to be critical of. The critique has always been the Bureau's sort of failure to grapple with that issue. Here, that was not at all the case.
Yeah,
They openly addressed it, and I think there were good reasons why the sergeant acted the way he did, and importantly, those were thoroughly reviewed in the IA investigation and by training.
Yeah, and I'm sympathetic to the way the decision was made. I mean, look, it's a high stress, high acuity situation, and I think I understand philosophically where you're coming from. The sergeant should be directing the scene as opposed to the director, if you will, as opposed to the actor. And I get that hypothetically, but as I look at these situations, particularly with what's at stake at any given moment, I'm sympathetic to the decision that sergeant made. So I was just trying to understand what the basis of the recommendation was. But it sounds like it's from an operational perspective. Somebody needs to be managing the scene. Is that your point?
Yeah. Well, I don't think we made that recommendation with respect to that case, because I agree with you that it was a reasonable decision for the sergeant to go in on that one. I think, and if this hadn't always been such a big deal for us in so many prior reports, we may not have talked about it so much in this one, but the goal in talking about it with this Brock case was actually to acknowledge the Bureau for its thoughtful review of the issue, and not at all to offer any disagreement with how they came down on it.
Good. Thank you, and I appreciate that. And just one more, and then I'll turn it over to my colleagues. So there was a case where an individual was holding a woman hostage and professing to have a bomb. And it's a very thorough analysis that you've done, and I appreciate it. But the bottom line recommendation, if I could paraphrase, was the PPB review should have addressed whether officers took the bomb threat seriously or not. And that one really caught my interest, because I have always just assumed that you have to take a bomb threat seriously. I mean, if somebody calls in a bomb threat to City Hall, we evacuate. We don't sit around and think about whether or not it's serious or whether I think it's serious or not. We just leave. Could you explain what your main point there and your recommendation to us was in that situation?
So that was also my case, Mr. Mayor, and in that instance, I think that the officers were responding to the circumstances that were right in front of them and kind of were making a credibility determination and just doing a visual observation as the events were unfolding. It was a dynamic situation, like with the other one. The woman that was a hostage was absolutely in peril and had already been wounded by the subject, and they felt like they needed to take action. And they apparently, I guess, visually and just in terms of the overall circumstances, they just didn't see corroborating evidence. And in the context of the person's remarks and behavior, they apparently didn't think that was a prominent or actual concern. And things just kind of evolved from there. And it was actually sometime later that somebody pieced it together and said, hey, we should probably send somebody in there and make sure that this thing is not a problem. But again, I think that the officers in this situation did a fine job overall. And my assumption is that they were only just reacting to the evidence that was right in front of them in terms of a credibility determination. But I think it would have been helpful to delve into it a little bit more.
Stephen, thank you. That's really helpful. I appreciate it. Commissioner Ryan.
Thank you. You should just know, I'll just speak for myself. We've been sitting here since 9:30 a.m. with, I think, a half-hour break, so it's not you. I was kind of taken with the time lag, and also when it was mentioned that when you give recommendations, to what end? And so I guess, Mayor, I'm curious is there someone responsible on the police force to monitor these recommendations, then loop back? And I guess I'm wondering who that is, because I haven't heard any loop back from the police bureau.
The answer is yes. And if only my brain wasn't as fried.
Chief Fromm's on.
Chief, Chief, can you remind me who it is in the bureau?
It's me.
It's you. Okay, I thought we actually had a staff person who is specifically tasked with following.
We do.
And who is that?
So we have an admin professional within the chief's office who tracks recommendations. And, I'll be honest, we have not always done this well. And it has only been within probably like the last year that we have been trying to do a better job of tracking recommendations coming out of the police review boards. OIR has now released another report. It's appropriate to put that in there as well. We also have recommendations that will come out of other groups that have done analysis of our work. We need to do a better job of having a centralized database to make sure that we're not stepping over each other. Like the training reviews, like OIR mentions, the training reviews of an officer-involved shooting will contain recommendations. But then there's also recommendations for the same shooting event that come out of the PRB. And then 3 to 4 years later, we will get recommendations from OIR about the same OIS. So this is where it's really critical for the chief's office to have a coherent strategy for how we accept these things, get them done, and then when OIR comes to us to say, hey, we're going to do, the rest of 2018, 2019, 2020, whatever their next batch is going to be, we're going to be able to say, okay, and here's access to the database of everything that we've already done in response to what you're about to look at. And I think that's going to be useful to OIR, and hopefully that's going to show our sincerity in wanting to try to adapt to this.
Thanks, Chief.
But I've taken the responsibility to coordinate the meetings and the database so that this doesn't get overlooked.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
That was satisfying. Everyone's head was nodding, so I hope that we follow through with this. Thanks.
Good. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Mapps. Can I get a second?
Sure.
Commissioner Ryan seconds. Any further discussion on the report? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ryan.
It was very thorough. I enjoyed listening to all of you. I wish we were more fresh, and I will also look at it further. And also thank you for the testimony from the public today. I accept the report.
Maps.
I'd like to thank IPR and OIR for this report. OIR makes 18 recommendations in this report, and I am heartened to see that the PPB essentially agrees with all of them. So we're not really debating policy here. Instead, it strikes me that we are waiting on implementation. I was pleased to hear the dialogue about some of the challenges that we've had tracking reports over time. I realized even today when I looked at this OIR report, while I was familiar with this, while I've been reviewing and studying this report, I hadn't gone back and compared it to what we had done in the past, and that's a practice which I will implement moving forward. And I certainly hope that the police commissioner and the police bureau implement some of the recommendations that Chief Frum developed in terms of tracking both the recommendations that we get in from the multitude of different police oversight boards, and also tracking how we're doing in terms of implementing them over time. I think this is progress. I want to thank everyone who helped make this moment possible. I vote aye.
Rubio.
I want to thank Mayor Wheeler and also IPR, PPB, and the OIR group, and also the CIC for the community engagement that's taken place and that will continue to take place on this. It's pretty clear that training is very important, the emphasis on training and also implementing the recommendations. I want to thank Chief Frum for acknowledging that we need to be better and make better progress on these implementations, and also communicating on what progress happens and when it happens. I also just want to lift up to, in reading the report, that a few of these cases had intersection with domestic violence, which just again reminds us of the importance to continue training officers also about the dynamics of DV relationships and how quickly lethal they can become. That's just top of mind for me because I'm also the liaison to the Gateway, so been hearing about that lately. Anyway, thank you again for all those that worked on this, and for those who provided testimony for giving us really concrete examples. I vote aye.
Wheeler.
Yeah, I want to add my thanks to the OIR group and thanks the folks from IPR. There's no way to understate how these events impact our community. Deadly force incidents are something I personally take very seriously. I know the police bureau takes them seriously, and I know the community takes them seriously. There's often a lot of trauma involved for people who are directly involved, their families, their neighbors, and it certainly induces trauma to members of the Portland Police Bureau as well. It is very important that we be able to objectively analyze our performance in each and every one of these cases. And it's kind of unfortunate that sometimes these reports are taken as highlighting police misconduct. And there is a time and there is a place for accountability, and we have those systems in place. But I see these annual reports as an objective opportunity to really look at what we're doing. And as Julie and Steve mentioned, this highlights some really good things that the Portland Police Bureau has done, and what suggests some positive steps that individual officers have taken. It also has objective criticisms in areas where we can and should do better. And that's the spirit in which I take these reports. I think there's really good recommendations here. The chief has reviewed them with me and with you, and as has been indicated, is supportive of these, and will continue to work with Mike and others in the Police Bureau to make sure we do that. I also want to acknowledge that as I read these reports, it underscores the dangerous circumstances that our officers often face in the line of duty, and the decision-making that they need to engage in that often gives them very little time and very little room for maneuvering. That's a lot of responsibility. And so it's really on all of us to look at how we can improve not only the work they do, but also make sure that they have the resources, that they have the tools, that they have the training they need to be able to be successful in those highly dangerous circumstances. So I also want to just say I'm optimistic that the Imminent addition of civilian training dean. We have now announced that position, and I'm really excited by the individual who's going to fill that important role. I think it'll help bolster the follow-through and the implementation in the training division of some of the recommendations that were put forward here today. And I know the IPR folks and the OIR group folks are excited that we now have that position filled, and we're all looking forward to seeing the results of that. I am also encouraged by the Bureau's response and their openness to implementing the recommendations meaningfully. And Chief Rum, I want to just acknowledge you for stepping forward very quickly and taking personal responsibility for the implementation of these recommendations. It doesn't just fall on you alone, sir, it falls on all of us. But I appreciate that you have the right attitude, the can-do attitude, and the willingness to take personal responsibility to see this through. And I look forward to working with you on that. So thanks to everybody for this. I vote aye, and the report is accepted. And colleagues, blissfully, after many, 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 many hours in these chairs, we are adjourned.
Thank you.